Yeah, I'm putting this out today as a reflection on the dichotomy between words and actions, and in particular focusing on the so-called socialists and liberals and progressives who denounce the evils of capitalism, Big Brother and deep state, and extolling the virtues of socialism, while at the same time they're using the biggest deep state platform of all, and that's Facebook. And I'm particularly thinking of those so-called progressives on WBAI, which is a so-called liberal or progressive radio station in New York City that's listener-supported public radio, while the hosts who extol the virtues of progressivism are all on Facebook, doing Facebook Live, the biggest deep state platform there is. And actually, they don't seem to have any problem with the deep state platform Facebook dropping those who have a different voice other than their own, which they would call conservative. So they don't seem to have a problem with that. And they will continue to use it. Because why? Because they profit from it, personally. You know, there's no... so what's the dichotomy? That's the question. Your words are one thing and your actions are another. Is it because your personal fortunes depend on it? Or your personal accolades, or your personal need for an audience, or your personal need for a... for congratulatory exultation from the masses? But anyway, here's a little something from Max Kaiser talking about Facebook. Check it out, especially you so-called progressives.
Welcome back to the Kaiser Report. I'm Max Kaiser. You're feeling sleepy. You're falling asleep. You're not sure where you are. You're now defenseless against the truth that you'll be hearing for the next few minutes. Winky dink, and you, winky dink, and me. Stacy, what's going on?
I thought you were going to say we were still on the demented Times Square that you were talking about, but instead we're going to talk about some basically social media, because we're continuing on with this Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. You know, we've been covering the fact that there was a hashtag delete Facebook. That didn't work. In fact, it just drew attention to the existence of Facebook to the few people in the world that didn't hear about it, and apparently they signed up. But there have been some more revelations from Facebook that they actually, it wasn't just one group, you know, the Cambridge Analytica that they gave our private data to. They were giving it to everybody. They were giving it to Apple. They were giving it to all sorts of people.
All right, so Facebook, in other words, there was no restriction about who could just access their data.
Well, of course, Mark Zuckerberg in testimony did say that you own your private data. Your private data on our site, Facebook, you own it, not us. Well, they were actually selling it. So I don't know how much money he made from this, or the corporation, but if he's saying, you know, his own testimony to Congress, unless he was lying under oath, you're owed that money. He was selling your data, so you deserve that money. He had no right to sell your private property based on his own testimony.
True.
Well, anyway, so we're going to look at Facebook as well, another story, because remember they bought WhatsApp, and WhatsApp has encrypted end-to-end technology, allegedly, right?
WhatsApp!
And they have encrypted end-to-end technology, and when they bought the company for billions of dollars, $22 billion in 2014, Mark Zuckerberg promised that it was going to stay that way, that it was going to stay pure and there are no ads on it. Well, in fact, Facebook is going to start having ads in your WhatsApp, and importantly, targeted ads, meaning that they'll keep on saying it's end-to-end encryption, but somehow there's somebody in there, an algorithm looking at what you're talking about, because they know where you are, they know what your likes are, they know what you're talking about in order to target the ads to you. So here is from Felix Salmon and Slate.com. There's no justification for what Mark Zuckerberg did to WhatsApp. The Wall Street Journal published a bombshell story last week about what reporters Kirsten Grind and Deepa call the messy, expensive split between Facebook and WhatsApp's founders. By the time he finished the Wall Street Journal piece, only two options seemed possible. Either Zuckerberg is a liar or he's a liar with absolutely no concept of the sunk cost fallacy. When Facebook bought WhatsApp for $22 billion in 2014, the companies rolled out a very clear messaging campaign based around WhatsApp motto of no ads, no games, no gimmicks. The messaging service would be owned by Facebook, and Facebook could continue to make as much money as it wanted from ads on its own platform, Facebook, but WhatsApp would retain its purity of product and even roll out end-to-end encryption. So we're going to talk about how the founders of WhatsApp were supposed to stay on, how they stayed on just through the rest of this year instead of quitting as they have done. I mean, one left $900 million on the table, the other left $400 million by leaving early because of what Zuckerberg is doing.
It's a matter of character. I mean, look, Mark Zuckerberg, he started Facebook by stealing information from Harvard. You know, they had their yearbook information that he stole. He's a thief. And then he copied a site called Rate My Face, I believe it was called at the time, to create a site called My Facebook, or no, The Facebook. And then it became popular on campus. And then he went right to Sand Hill Roll in San Francisco and raised a bunch of venture money and sold out to Goldman Sachs. The genesis of it all, though, was that he had been stiffed by some chick on the Harvard campus. He couldn't get a date. So he expressed his anger by breaking into the database and stealing information and then creating this gigantic, enormous behemoth of a violation, upsetting surveillance state, gargantuous software.
Well,
and then it's all because of his character. He has very low character. He has no moral character.
Well,
that's the problem.
But Felix Salmon says he doesn't know if it's him or Sheryl Sandberg. Somebody's advising them to basically betray their agreement with the two founders. Now, the two founders of WhatsApp, in their agreement with Zuckerberg, with Facebook, did install basically a clause saying that if you start to use ads, we can basically sue you and like we could leave without penalty. But it turns out that there was actually another clause hidden in there that they didn't quite see.
He stole the whole idea from the Winklevoss twins, didn't he?
Yes.
He has no moral character, and now he's destroying this entire industry.
Okay, so WhatsApp wasn't an easy acquisition for Zuckerberg because the two apps have very different founding principles. Jan Koum, one of the co-founders who grew up in Ukraine, believes deeply in privacy. Zuckerberg thinks that the more open and connected we are, the happier we will become. And so in order to acquire WhatsApp, Zuckerberg not only had to pay a lot of money and give up a board seat to Koum, he also had to make a lot of promises. Some of those promises were even enshrined in the acquisition agreement. If Facebook imposed, quote, monetization initiatives like advertising onto WhatsApp, its founders' shares would vest immediately and they could leave without suffering any kind of financial penalty. Now, Zuckerberg may be an immoral, corrupt, but these two founders left without collecting money because there was another clause in there which said they had to sue to get that money. So they've just left over $1 billion on the table because they disagree.
Well, it's a calculation that was made at the time of the signing because they were able to still take home $21 billion apiece. So to leave 900,000, billion, million, or whatever on the table is a chump change. It's meaningless. They knew that they were getting in bed with the flea-ridden pig, and then they knew that this day was going to happen. They knew that from the day one that this day was going to happen.
They left. They had to leave because they found out that Facebook was what Facebook is, and everybody said this would happen. Google, of course, also removed from their own charter that don't be evil. So now they've admitted basically that they can't abide by their own basically principles that they said they were operating by. So he's saying that it's a sunk cost fallacy that that Zuckerberg is thinking he needs to put ads onto WhatsApp. Given how much Facebook paid for WhatsApp, doesn't it have a right to get a return on its investment? The answer to that question is simple: no, it doesn't. This is where the sunk cost fallacy comes in. It doesn't matter anymore how much money Facebook paid for WhatsApp. All that is water under the bridge. If Zuckerberg wants to aggressively monetize WhatsApp, installing ads between every other text message, it is within his rights to do that regardless of how much the acquisition cost was. But the acquisition cost poses zero current burden on Facebook that requires the imposition of advertising.
Well, because Zuckerberg is paranoid. This is a correlation with wealth that happens in most people that become wealthy. They become increasingly more paranoid. And so Mark Zuckerberg, he's worth 40, $50 billion. His paranoia is now at William Randolph Hearst-like levels of megalomaniacal psychosis.